She had a bilateral mastectomy. It was breast cancer. When she found out, I tried to be, like the strong partner and went to all the visits with her, and I was just super worried about what it was going to look like after the surgery. Pam does so much at home. She basically is like our at-home CEO, does so much in terms of helping with the leads, helping with just business generation, ideas, keeping me on task, keeping me like practical with my ideas. And I was like so much just like worried about like how I was going to fulfill those roles and just questioning like whether I could. I was on legal Zoom at 9 p.m., probably like 3 months before I started, and I was like, I don't know what the hell to call this. I'm gonna call it Joe Norton Physical Therapy. And then over time, we've dropped the Joe. My story I always give people is high school is super disinterested in school. I love sports, particularly soccer, track, and I had a little bit of interest in like bio. My mom and my guidance counselor was like, oh, that's great, you like sports, you should look at physical therapy. I was like, sure. Ended up getting into 2 PT schools, and one was a small Division III, and I could do soccer and run there. Even a month into my soccer career in college, they were like, we're good, Joe. We don't need you on the team. And I wasn't too devastated because I kind of wanted to run anyways. So then the next week I just showed up at cross-country practice, loved the team, fell more in love with the sport. And then I just did the dumb runner thing where I went out and just ran 50, 60 miles a week on no training and broke my shin bone. After that, I was just searching for answers. So I went to every ortho, AT, PT, people that just make orthotics, just looking for answers. No one could give me like a clean answers like why the stress injury happened and like why I was continuing to have symptoms. And I don't know, I just didn't feel, that didn't jive with me, didn't feel like that should be the case. And because I loved running, I was like, you know what, physical therapy is probably like actually a good choice for me. Fast forward to my first job at Georgetown. I had a great experience where in the hospital, I was an inpatient physical therapist. My aha moment was I had a post-op spine, and like I walked out of the room after doing an evaluation thinking like, I nailed that. Like I felt so good about like my performance within that. The person just seemed like they felt so reassured, and that was my moment where I was like, I like PT. There's a busy morning. Probably in like a 4-hour period, I saw 12 people, and I hit my last client of that morning. I was 30 minutes behind, and I could tell on his face he was a little disappointed. And I was just reflecting, it's like, that morning sucked. I hated that. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then one day I was just walking through the office, and I had this aha moment that like, this is the time. I want to create this practice. I started making some phone calls. Andrew Millett we lived on the same dorm floor in college. I was like, hey, I see what you're doing. Tell me like what I need to do to start. So he gave me a ton of advice, and he actually checked on me like weekly or monthly throughout the next like 6 months. And he told me about you guys like right away. And I was like, I want to do that. And he was like, well, you can't. You actually have to have a business first. But I used his advice just to get the ball rolling. And then as soon, like a month or 2 into it, I had like my intake call with you. Andrew Millett was one of the guiding factors there, where he was just like, you know nothing about business. And he told me numerous times, and I was terrified to start the business. It was a huge just leap of faith. I remember like the first week after leaving Georgetown, I was like, shit, what am I gonna do? I remember my first few accountability calls, like once I started implementing some of the marketing strategies, my schedule was fully booked. Everyone in the accountability group was like, what are you doing? How are you like bringing in this type of revenue? But it was one of those things where it really worked. I met Pam as soon as I transitioned from inpatient to outpatient at Georgetown. She had like her first day on the outpatient team. And there's an immediate connection because that was like how we started, and we eventually just became like best friends, and eventually we got married. There was just a natural way about it. She does everything well that I don't do well. She's very organized. She's really awesome, like one-on-one with people. So it's been just super natural fit. When she came aboard here in our second or third year, honestly, the business just skyrocketed and offloaded my plate so much. It was a super difficult time. It was just overwhelming. I went into a dark, kind of depressed, anxious place, and I just disassociated from it for a month, from diagnosis to surgery. And then it happened, and I was like, oh man, I have to take on all of her roles, responsibilities. She had her surgery in late June. It was that week where finally it just kind of hit me like, fuck, my wife just had a major surgery, and I was running on one of the trails here, and I was like, why am I doing this? I don't want to be doing this. I frankly don't want to be doing anything. There were multiple days where, again, I was just feeling like not right, like questioning like why I was even working. It was a struggle. Because the business is pretty progressive at this point and we're doing well, I was like, you know what, we can just pull back a little bit. All of our staff is totally, they know our situation, and one of our values is like treating everyone with patience, kindness, gratitude, and they all just like, we care for them, they care for us, and they just kind of picked up the slack, and that made life so much easier. At the end of the summer, we had a 2-week vacation. By that time, Pam had been cleared by the doctor. She could do full range of motion, she could lift, she could do things. And they were like, yeah, we got all the cancer out, clean margins as we did the surgery. You have a 1% likelihood of ever having any recurrence throughout the rest of your life. And it was a beautiful reset. After vacation, like back to being like kind of relatively energetic, jovial. I felt motivated again. And I would say since then, it's even more like feeling I want to be present with my kids and Pam, and making sure like, there are nights where we get home, both of us are so tired, we lay in bed, and much more now we'll just connect, like, how's your day, what are some of the good parts? And it's actually something that we are definitely closer now as a family than we were. I don't know, have just a much even greater ease as a family than we ever did. Definitely, like, I've always wanted the like flexibility to spend more time with friends and family, and now I actually have that time, that flexibility. I want to help other people have that transformative effect in their lives, and I believe physical therapy can have people transform their spirit, their mind, their body, so then they can just live healthier versions of themselves. You might not always have the ability to change numerous people's lives at once, but I'm of the belief that you can have one person change their life for the better, and that bleeds into their lives, their community, and all the people that are in their sphere.